Good morning, everybody.
Good morning.
And a very warm welcome to everyone. I'm Michael Dehn, General Manager, Sales and Marketing at Messe Frankfurt, India, your host and moderator for this session today. As trade fair organizers, we understand the significance of networking and staying connected. So we continue our goal of bringing people together. And it is an extreme delight to have you all joining us for this industry exchange today. Our session will take up the much needed discussion on the impact of COVID-19 on the wide format printing industry and the way forward for its stakeholders. Before we begin, let me take a minute to introduce our panel members. Most of them you will know as familiar faces of the industry and also from the show floor of Media Expo. Let me start with Mr. Shailesh Mehta. He is the founder and director of Mehta CAD/CAM Systems. He has more than 25 years of rich experience in the signage industry with manufacturing facilities and branches across India. Metas are pioneers in laser and CNC technology with a business presence across the globe. Good morning.
Good morning.
Next, we have Mr. Santosh Nair, who is currently serving DCC as an Associate Director for Business Strategies. He started his career in the digital industry 3 decades ago and since then has been part of various organizations in developing the digital printing market in India. Good morning, Santosh.
Good morning. Good morning, everyone.
Our next panel member is Mr. AJ Agarwal, who has spent over 25 years in the printing industry and is the founder of Insight, which has grown to become one of the leading providers of printing solutions and works with some of the biggest brands like Komori Corporation, pre-press solutions from Image Setter days to CTP from Kodak. The latest to get added to Insight's portfolio are digital textile printing and digital laser press from Konica Minolta and R-Series from Flatbed. From HP. Good morning.
Morning, Michael, and good morning to everyone.
And our final panel member, Mr. Madhu Dadu, brings engineering experience and has been in the wide format industry since its beginning in India. Epson Infotex, as we know, has been distributing Roland DG products for more than 25 years in South Asia and has also started manufacturing of digital inkjet printers from the sign and graphic industry and textiles under the ColorJet brand. I learned that Mr. Dadu is also a government nominee director on the board of Punjab and Sindh Bank, which I think will be quite interesting for our questions pertaining to government's efforts in enhancing money movement in this situation for our industry. Well, that's quite a panel, and we have with us today for our equally dynamic 400 plus audience joining us live. We want to know more about you, our audience, that is attending the session today. So we will keep popping up a few poll questions during the session, and we request you to participate actively and let us know your thoughts so we can include you in our discussion. As an attendee, you can also make use of the chat function in order to introduce yourself or to ask a question to our panel members. Towards the end of the session, we'll have some question and answer time. Our first polling question for today is popping up now. What is the nature of your business? So please select one of your highest preference. We'll give a few seconds for this and you'll see the result in a second. Okay, thank you very much. Can we see the results? There we go. So we have manufacturers, dealers, distributors, and service provider agencies pretty much in equal shares, and also media and publishing and others. Coming to our second polling question about the application area of your business. We'll again give you a few seconds to make your choice. Thank you very much. And so here we can see the result. We can see at this point that screen and textile printing is in the minority here, but we have a session following right after this session, which is focusing on this area. So we are here with a large format printing and digital printing and signage companies in the majority. Right, moving on to the third question, we would like to know where you are joining us from. Okay, so let us see the results. Okay, so we have Western India and Northern India in the majority, South India, East India and Central India in the minority, and 3% from overseas. Thank you so very much. And now let's move forward with today's agenda. We are all well aware that the pandemic has not only affected the health of the citizens worldwide, but also majorly affected our business. And today we want to take a look at the current impact as well as guidance from our panel on the wide format printing industry. And I'd like to open the discussion by understanding from Mr. AJ Agarwal, how do you assess the impact of COVID on the economy, both in the short and in the long run?
Good morning, everybody. I personally am extremely optimistic and bullish over the long run. In the short run, of course, we will go through pains, which we all do. But in the long run, I'm extremely bullish, and I have my reasons for it. And let me put down those reasons for you all to analyze whether they make sense to you as well. So let's look at the background. The background is India, for whatever reason, seems to be winning the ground. The number of deaths are very low, whether it is because of the BCG vaccine that we take early in our childhoods, or whether it is the malaria effect, or it is the timely lockdown effect. Whatever may be the case, looks like we will come out of this comparatively much better off compared to other nations. And that should bring in a lot of confidence amongst the Indians moving forward. This is the base one. Let's look at the second area, which is going in favor of India. We have adequate food stocks. There are countries which are struggling to get stocks to the last mile at this stage, while in India, adequate food stock. Fortunately for us, the crude is falling. India imports 80 to 90% of its crude, and so that's in favor of India. The demographic dividend of India is extremely good, and we have a very strong leadership as on today, and most of the Indians do believe and follow him, which makes a lot of difference. When such a big problem is facing the nation, and if it is good, things can move faster and better.
Sorry, Mr. Agarwal.
Yeah.
We have a noise interruption.
Not from my side.
Okay, fine.
So we had this Jan Dhan Aadhaar mobile indemnity by which the funds were transferred to poor people's accounts, and we have not seen any negative riots, food riots, which normally these kind of occasions get associated with. So India has been fairly peaceful, and that should also, moving forward, help India towards moving in the positive direction. And the third and the most important reason why I strongly believe that we will, as a nation, come out winners after this particular pandemic is because if you see the background again, India's fiscal deficit was being controlled by the government for the last 6 years. So now moving forward, if they want to give benefits to the nation in terms of whatever to the corporates, to the poor people, the government has the capacity to do it. The nation's debt to GDP ratio is amongst the healthiest compared to many nations. So just to give you an example, India's debt to GDP ratio is at 0.5%, 0.5. When we compare this to, let's say, America, Western Europe, Japan, and many other countries, they are above 1, 1.5, at times even 2. So India's debt to GDP ratio is very healthy, and that should help India to increase the debt if required. When we come to interest rates, India's interest rates are a perfect range. I'll elaborate this a bit. You know, if when we look at the Western world or the developed world, the interest rates are literally zero. You can't go down even any further. And there was a time when India's interest rates were 15%, 20%, and even higher, and they are no more in such rates. We are in single digit levels, and this should help corporates to borrow money and tide over this particular crisis. So we are in a perfect range of interest rates, and this is also good for India. You see, anything in excess is poison. High interest rates is not good. Very low interest rates are also not good. Somewhere in the middle, the balance is very good. Banks. Indian banks, again, for the last many years, have been consolidating themselves, recapitalizing themselves. The NPA has been gradually coming down. So now, when the RBI is asking banks to lend money to the corporate world and to the business world, banks will be more comfortable lending money, and that should again help India. Now, when we compare this to the Western world, they were in a sort of a bubble, while India was already going through a slowdown in the last 1 year. We had already come down to 5% instead of 7%. So there was not so much of a bubble in the Indian economy. So I believe that the base layer for India is well in place for us to get out of this particular situation and then get cracking. So I am very optimistic over the long term. For the short term, for the next 3 months, nobody can say anything. We all will have to handle our cash flow situations and survival strategies to kick into place. But long term, I am very, very bullish.
Thank you, AJ. Thank you so much for this very complete overview. Mr. Mehta, your company has a manufacturing unit in India and business presence across the globe. How do you assess the impact so far?
Thank you, Michael. Good morning, Michael. Good morning, everyone. This is an unprecedented situation. COVID-19 have been imagined only in Hollywood movies, and in reality, to imagine about COVID-19 is terrible. The bad part of this is it has shaken up confidence all around, and the best part is that it is not going to last for a long. There will be a sunrise soon. About the impact on economy, it is definitely depend on how one take it. I believe this crisis also can be converted into opportunity in a short term. Of course, people are under pressure and fear that once the lockdown gets open, how it will happen. They have a less income, very less sales, less flow, but the overheads, the outflow will be the same as it is. I believe that no one required to worry about it. It's an opportunity. Generally, people are worried about their expenditure, current expenditure of like salary, their rents, their payment to their supplier, and so on. But I believe that even in these situations, you can share your problem with your this everyone, and you can find out the best way. You can do certain kind of installment and all. And as far as the employees is concerned, they are the partners of our company. They also understand the situation very, very well. And I am sure that there are also very good solution where some part payment and all, everybody understand. So this way, the immediate impact, you can slow down, you can diffuse it. And in a long term, definitely, I see it as a great opportunity. India is going to be Sonic India once again. And as far as Meta CAD/CAM system is concerned, we are competing China, mainly China companies in India, and almost all Chinese company across the globe. After this COVID-19, I can see that people have, Indian people or all over the world, they have certain kind of anger to the Chinese people. They have lost the trust and confidence on Chinese people.
Well, I would
So,
not,
sorry?
sorry, let's not get to that point, but
Yeah, so it's a great opportunity for VC for Meta CAD/CAM that now as being a manufacturer, I'm sure that our business will grow a lot in India as well as across the globe. We are very optimistic about it. So, and this lockdown period is also, I see it as an opportunity to think something new, to think out of the box, to think creative, and it's a time to think and pre-plan about the business expansion, business diversifications. So it's a great time. It's a great time to build up your health, maintain your shape, and spend some time with the family members. So I think everything is going very well for India, and I'm proud to be in India, and it's a great time now, whether short term or long term. Only we have to work hard in these situations, and as you know that when tough gets, only the tough gets going. So we have to be ready and to work hard in this situation.
thank you so much. Thank you,
sir.
Mr. Mehta. Mr. Santosh Nair, coming to you. The COVID-19 has imposed a stay put to almost all the economic activities, be it marketing, sales, branding, of course, except for the essential businesses. In such scenario, how important do you think are the branding activities, and what are your suggestions for the brands?
Well, good morning, everyone. I've been hearing one of the top guys talking about the Indian economy and all. Definitely, India will shine for sure. But then we have to understand that we will have to divide this period into a short-term and a long-term thing. And that's where see, at the end of the day, the large format industry is mainly dependent on the brands from where the real business comes. And my interaction in the last couple of weeks with some of the brands is that they have become very silent in their way. They are completely back to the drawing boards. They are now trying to relook at the strategy, what they have been doing well and what was not being happening properly, and what can be taken as an advantage of the situation. So from that perspective, what I see in the brand side of it is that they are now looking at new means of reaching the customer. So primarily, if you look at it, every retailer has this fear that the footfall will fall in their retail outlets in the coming 4 to 5 months, because of the end consumer who's in that conservative state of saving cash or using his resources to how he can take it to the, for another 6 months. That fear is there with every of them. So they are trying now an alternate way of reaching the customer. So they are re-looking at the way they want to attract or get the eyeballs rolling. The problem over here is suddenly you see, the brands, they are unable to decide, which way to go. When you look at an out-of-home marketing, there is a complete dullness, there is complete silence over there because the culture has moved from home, from offices to home. So that is where, the out-of-home is slightly in a situation they don't know which way to move. But probably what I understand, ambient advertising will take over to a great extent where new means of seeing or being in front of the customer will be thought of. So from a brand perspective, I was suggesting to them that, this is the time they need to really have a balance between digital and static. Because if you look at individually, at home, I'm bombarded on an online model with so many new stuff that there is no recall left. And I think this is where a brand will need a large format industry to have that recall value in place. So because static prints are the ones where I will finally be drawn, even though the value proposition will come from digital, the actual sale model will happen when I'm in front of a store, and the static messages are going to be my key attention seeker for that particular brand retail outlet. So there will be a balancing, it will tilt slightly towards digital. When it comes to essentials, definitely they are going the digital model. But when it comes to non-essentials, I think it will be new ways and new tools that they are going to adopt on the telecom, on the telecom base, where new ways of reaching customers are being thought of. So geo-fencing, geo-tagging, if I'm in near a mall, how I can be connected and got with the new offers coming in. That is what they will drive the customer to the mall. But as we reach the mall, static prints are the one which will really gain importance. And understand one thing, what every brand has said is that one good thing about India is that the rural market is still growing. And that is where their focus is going to be. Their prints are not going to stop. They are still, because that is not gone digital as yet, because we are still in the microwave model. We are not gone in the fiber model. So that is where I think rural will still pick up. So I would suggest that these 3 months, definitely cash is the king. Everyone is going to definitely conserve their cash. But post that, I feel, digital plus static will take the game.
Santosh, a follow-up question on that. Do you have any recent examples of a combination of geofencing and outdoor media?
Well, I would give one example of, it's in close quarters. I've been working, where my daughter has been working in one of the cosmetic brands. And I got the experience that even though there is no connect or, see, luxury items are going to be hit. Let's understand that luxury is going to be the biggest hit over here. Now that is, see, essentials are not going to be a challenge. But when it comes to luxury, anything beyond essentials is now considered luxury in the eyes of a consumer. So primarily there, there are these digital messages going, SMSs going, emotional connect going, where, the customer is being said that, you can always visit the store later, but right now you can have a look on our product line, how this post-COVID, you can actually, help yourself in gaining back the confidence. So many stuff, so they are going through a lot of emotional messaging at this stage. And I think that is where the millennials and the lower age millennials are actually, they will not sit at home. They are definitely going to be at the stores once this gets open. Yes, the social distancing will come into play. Like, for example, let me give you a very classic example. One of the brands is now looking at, doing floor graphics for all the social distancing place where the consumer is going to stand. So they are really looking at floor graphics. This was never a chapter in anyone's state except into malls. But today it is going outdoors. Outside the bus stops, outside the railway stations, everywhere. So imagine how floor graphics is now being the discussion and the core of the most impactful outdoor, application that will come into play.
Thank you, Santosh. Mr. Dadu, what advisory or suggestion do you have for print service providers, PSPs and signage makers to fight out the crisis?
Good morning, everyone. I think all our PSPs are entrepreneurs themselves, so they know their business very well. But even then, since you asked, here are a few things from my side. One is these things are not, this situation is not going to last for long. So there is no need. I have heard some people wanting to change business. So my strong advice is to please stay in the business. Just maybe change the way you are doing the business. For example, you could try to get some clients from industries which are going to be there. For example, food and agro industries, FMCGs, and e-commerce, and maybe less concentration on a few others, which like reality, which may not be so successful in the situation. Second would be to optimize your resources. You see, we all have to work towards an expense-based budgeting now, rather than a revenue-based budgeting, which means every paisa that we spend has to be judicially spent. Third is, of course, as far as your customers are concerned, these are times where I think every PSP needs to look at how he can give a more value to his customer. You see, he may not be buying more, but he will definitely be looking for more value. So once you do it, your customer will not lose confidence in you and will stay with you in these difficult times. And fourth, of course, is keep your employees happy. These times are not going to last long. If your employees are happy, if all your partners, stakeholders are happy, I think we'll, as PSPs, everyone will be able to overcome this difficult situation. And in the long run, like everyone else has been saying, it will be good for everyone in any case.
Thank you, Mr. Dadu. Mr. Agarwal, what are your suggestions to PSPs?
So my suggestions to PSPs are as follows: that let's understand again. Let's go back to the basics. Every corporate now would want to maximize their sales, perhaps achieve their targets in 11 months instead of 12 months, which means that they need to get aggressive on sales, and marketing has to be part of it. And many marketing is a discretionary expense, and if any corporate tries to cut down on marketing, he is cutting down on the muscle, not on the fat. So the marketing expense, according to me, is going to go high. Even in our company, whatever strategies that we have planned, we have no other option but to increase the marketing. Now, from that marketing budget, what comes to the out of home area is something which I believe will be substantial, because people will want to move out after such a huge lockdown, and will want to spend time outdoors, will want to travel, of course, after the situation has eased out, and there is going to be a good marketing spend. I believe we will be in for good times. All we need to be careful about is not to go after customers who might be going through a tight cash flow situation and getting their money stuck. So wherever they can find good customers wanting to spend on their marketing budget, as Mr. Dadu said, provide value to them and things should be fine.
Thank you, Mr. Agarwal. A quick side note to our attendees: please feel free to post your questions in the chat box, and we'll get to it once we are at the end of this discussion. Santosh, would you also like to share some suggestions to the PSPs?
Yeah, see, my suggestion at this stage, what I would say is that first is fly light. So if you look at post-COVID and before COVID, it's like an AC and BC. It's like after Christ and before Christ kind of a situation. So, if you look at after Christ situation, ideally everyone should now fly light. What I mean by that is that let's look at our individual resources and see what can be used as to capitalize. Like, for example, can we look at localization of the laborers that has been scattered now in the country? They are not coming back for quite some time. So can we use this as a localization policy where rather than adding them back into the, we can go into a contractual model at the labor front to begin with. I'm not talking of the core labor, the staff which is there. But I'm talking signage is a very labor intensive stuff that has come when it comes to fabrication and execution. So let's first plan, we need to fly light and figure out how we can now come together, and individually and coactively and together, we can use each other's assets to the best possible thing. Secondly, what I would suggest is be agile. We need to now be agile in terms of, deciding what is the new product line that we want to offer. And third most important thing is, let's now be consultants to your end customers, to your brands, because that is what they are seeking today. They want every PSP to come and talk to them, not from a business perspective, but they want to see what are the new areas that they can go and make their sale effective. That is the key. So everyone is going towards marketing and digital, but at the end of the day, printing has to be an important and integral part of everyone's strategy. So this is where I feel every PSP should take a call.
Thank you, Santosh. Now, you were talking about being in being in connect with your customers and be consultants to your customers as well. We have another polling question for that, because that is really an important point. Right now you can't really sell anything to anyone, but it doesn't stop you from still speaking to your customers and being connected. So we would like, looking at our 366 participants right now, we would like to ask everybody, when was it the last time you connected with your customers? So if you just give us an answer to that. To all those who joined a bit later, please just select one of these answers if you want to participate in this quick poll. And in a few seconds, we'll take a look at the result. This is the time where it's time to talk, and maybe not necessarily only about business, but you can, of course, strengthen your connections with your customers and your potential customers. Okay, let's take a look at the results. I'm very curious now. Okay, so roughly half of our participants and attendees have been in touch with their customers within the last week. And sorry, the results, there they are. And there's 30% who have not spoken to their customers since the lockdown. So to those 30%, I would say, pick up your phone, speak to your customers, be in touch. It's not about sales right now, but just, be present, and because at some point the lockdown is going to end and you want to be in touch with them again. So I think there is a big opportunity to strengthen your relationships. So thank you for this polling question. It gives everybody also a bit of an idea of where everybody else stands. So now moving on, my next question, Mr. Mehta, I would like to know from you. You have built an impressive business over time, and exhibitions play a vital role in building a business and building connections. How have exhibitions helped you to grow your business?
Oh, thank you, Michael. Exhibitions has played a significant role in the development of Mehta CAD/CAM's business. I remember that I participated first Media Expo exhibition when it organized first time, and till now, almost we have not missed any exhibition without participations. Exhibition is a great opportunity for our kind of manufacturer and participants, as well as a great opportunity for all the visitors. For us, it's only a good time to launch a new product, to develop, to display our all range of product, and to interact with the customers, to know what they want next. Our all development is based on that, like what the customer need next, So it's a good opportunity to interact with each customer, building up a strong relationship, and it's great. Exhibition is most important for our kind of business. Even it has also given us a good sales. Every exhibition gives us a good numbers of sales. Even these days, we are, before the exhibition, we start producing and keeping a more stock of the machines. So you can understand how much it is important. But I think that after COVID-19, I don't know how the exhibition will happen and how the people will, the same number of people will be visiting or not. But I think that now, Mr. Michael, there should be now a system of virtual exhibition where you declare the 3 days, where virtually you give us the stall, we display our machine virtually, and and we need not to transport the machine from even seated in my factory. My people can show the performance of the machines and all. So now I think that that time may also come, Mr. Michael.
That time, of course, I mean, how are we talking right now? This is all virtual, and we are still the facilitator of these connections as well. So, of course, also in our business, we are integrating digital solutions with our physical and live events.
And sincerely, Mr. Michael, I really thank to Media Expo, in this last more than 20 years, because of Media Expo, I tell you that we could grow each part of India. In Media Expo, people come from every corners of India, and it has really helped us for the business growth.
Thank you so much. And just to give you that point, of course, we are connecting people. That's our job in any way, digitally or physically. And we are continuing to do that. And so we'll see at the next Media Expo. Of course, we'll also again see ourselves in person. But meanwhile, we still have to get through this crisis. And that brings me to my next point on the subject of reviving business, Mr. Dadu. What steps should the government take in this regard to enhance money movement?
Okay, Michael, I think there are several steps which the government has already taken in this respect in increasing the liquidity in the market. As a banker, I can tell you that all the banks have a lot of capital to give away. The NPA norms have been changed. The risk-based assessments that are done for MSMEs, the rules have been changed, which essentially means that banks can lend more to their customers, especially in the MSME. There has been a reduction in the repo rate, which many banks have passed on to their customers already. So these are some things which the government is already trying to do. And I'm very sure if you approach your bank, I think with the working capital limits now needs to be enhanced because we were working on a 90-day working capital cycle, become a 180-day cycle. So I think, but the banks are ready to support that. Regarding suggestions, the suggestion that I have is our industry works on a lot of cash. So I would recommend that the cash spending limit is increased so that it will immensely help our industry at least. I'm not saying that people should not pay taxes. I'm just saying that payment by cash, the limit should increase. Of course, this is not against going the digital, but there is cash available, very typical to our industry. And I think second suggestion is that the government is already doing spending from its side. They're giving on spending on Manrega and other schemes. But they have to come out with schemes so that people can spend. If the public spending increases, the complete cycle will happen. And I think things will be put in the right perspective. People will be spending more in the markets. Manufacturers will produce more and they'll spend more. So that I think these are the two main suggestions I have.
Thank you so much. Now I would like to ask each of you for your suggestions on the top priorities that people should work on right now so they're ready to reopen business. So the top 3 things that you think is important right now. I'd like to start with Mr. Agarwal.
What I think is currently in the short run, each and every entrepreneur, each and every business should simply focus on cash flow. Cash is the blood of any business. Businesses don't close down if they are going in a loss. Businesses close down if the cash goes dry. If you see Kingfisher, they were in losses for many years, but they closed down once they were not able to pay salaries, once they were not able to pay for their fuel charges, etc., etc. So cash is the king. Ensure that you are liquid. Uh, as Mr. Dadu said, perhaps go to your bank, take some credit limits, talk to your suppliers, work out an arrangement which is a balancing arrangement between them and you, because your suppliers will also be stressed in terms of cash flow. So it has to be a win-win situation. And as long as you can survive the next 4-5 months, a lot of companies will go bankrupt. Let me be very blunt here. Those who have had bad cash flow planning, those who have not been good with their employees, or not good with their suppliers, they have not a very strong relationship with their suppliers. Normally, everybody has a good relationship with their customers. So one has to look at areas which they can control, and which is suppliers and employees. Focus on these areas because they are your arms, they are your support systems, your employees and your suppliers, and your banks. If these three can support you during this period, then the rest should be okay.
Thank you so much. Moving on to Santosh, your top priorities.
My top priority from a PSP perspective is that let's localize everything. I mean, as much as possible, try to localize as much as possible, right from your raw material procurements to your labor to everything. Let's localize it in such a way that it is managed and it is giving you a buffer in your current cash flow. So basically, since cash is the king, we all need to think light, we need to think differently, and we need to think efficiently. So that is my first suggestion, that let's look at having a light model going ahead, where we can, have localization as a key in every aspect of the business. Second is, I think digitally, we all need to now have an option in place, not only to reach out, but as a product-based model. I think every PSP now needs to think slightly differently and go to a product-based model for every brand, so that can actually help us have some hit rates coming on a daily basis through a digital channel. So our PSPs have to go on a digital mode to begin with, to ensure that they are in close touch with customers, and day in day out, the customer is connected with them for all their requirements as on a consultative model. And third, I would say, is now after COVID, when you have seen that the earth is resetting itself, let's all go green. I mean, ideally, this is the time we all need to think differently. And let's now think, because every brand is going through a CSR route. Understand that every brand today is on the taking their cue from a CSR shoulder, and they are shooting their brands. So let's take this opportunity at a social level, and we PSPs, let's take a call to go green.
Thank you. Thank you. Mr. Mehta, coming to you, your priorities for the industry.
First, it is a good time to think something creative, think out of the box. It's good time to make some new project, new planning. And as Mr. Dadu said, that RBI and government are working and have infused a lot of money to the bankers to loan to the MSME and the entrepreneurs. Banks are flooded with the funds. Just have a good project, go to the banks. Money is never a problem. There are money, a lot of money. So it's a time to redesign your business, expansion of business and diversification of business. That is number one. Number two, in signage industries, people do have different kind of machineries, like different kind of digital printer, solid printer, eco-solid printer, laser machine, CO2 laser machine, fiber laser cutting machine, CNC routers. Each of these machines has so many other applications also, and they can generate the revenue by finding out the different application, different business which can be done on the same machine. Like as example, like, in signage, the CO2 laser cutting machine people generally use to cut the acrylic. But the same machines we sell to textile industries to cut the fabric, leather industries to cut the leather and PU material, wood industry, MDF cutting and all. So the people who have a range of machines, they can find out the different application and connect to those people. And when the lockdown gets open, they can utilize their machines fully, not just depending on the signage industries.
Thank you so much. Mr. Dadu, your recommendations and your priorities.
I think all businesses today should make a business continuity plan. These are very, very special situations. You could look at a pessimistic, a realistic, and an optimistic view of the situation. And I think we have to work hard and prepare ourselves for the pessimistic situation, but work towards achieving the most optimistic results. I think a business continuity plan for every business, whether small or big, is a must today. Second thing is, now that most of the people are operating from home, they have more time. And our teams should technically upgrade themselves. We should study what other applications are possible using the same equipment that we have. Because it is not just about printing or a signboard. There are many other applications possible with the existing equipment that we have. And we could study things like better color management. I mean, everything that gives more value to your customer is something that we should work for during these times.
Thank you so much. I'd like to summarize your priorities right now, because I think when you look at them all together from each of you, you come to a very nice complete picture. First of all, we heard to focus on the cash flow. Yes, that's the lifeblood of your business. On the other hand, the recommendation to go local and to go sustainable, because sustainability is going to be a priority for many big companies as well as governments in the way forward. And the next recommendation is to go creative, to look at new projects and to look at new applications, see what machinery you have and what else you can use it for. Can you, branch out to some new business without really that much of new investment, but with your existing machinery. And last, of course, to look into your business continuity planning, prepare for the worst, but aim for the best. And what I find also a very important point now, that your workforce is not really that much able to do much, look at training. There are many online resources where staff can upgrade and bring that back into the business once the lockdown is over. So I think that was quite a nice set of recommendations. I would also like to draw your attention to the next session that we have at 12 o'clock. This is on digital textile printing. We are going to post the link for this next session also into the chat section here, which you will need to copy if you would like to join the next session as well. We are going to have a presentation there on digital textile printing, and it is free to attend for all of you. The only thing is you would need to copy this link, which has just now been pasted, and then you can immediately join the next session. It's starting at 12 o'clock. Okay, now that we're nearing the end of the session, I would suggest that we'll take a look at the questions afterwards. I'll give these questions to the panelists, and then we will send them the answers out to all of you by email. Then you can take a look at the answers. You will get an email from us with all the answers of the questions. And with that, I would like to thank all the panelists for your time. and your insights. I think it's very, very good to know to have this optimism in our industry, because the mentality is half the battle. And with that, I would like to end the session, thanking you all again. And I'll see you soon in a few minutes' time in the other session. Thank you so much.